In recent decades, Vietnam has distinguished itself several times as a nation unafraid to stand up to its larger and much more powerful neighbor to the north, China. We saw that in the border wars of the 1970s and 80s. We saw it again in the 2012 passage of the Law of the Sea resolution. But on March 23rd of this year, Vietnam caved in to Chinese pressure in a very telling way. This caving came in the form of Vietnam halting a large-scale oil drilling project in the South China Sea. The project was being conducted by Vietnam and the Spanish energy firm Repsol. They were working to drill at the Red Emperor oil and gas discovery, which is estimated to contain 45 million barrels of oil and 170 billion cubic feet of gas. So it's a major and a very valuable discovery, and it lies within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone. So that means, according to international law, that it is Vietnamese territory. But China has little regard for international law. When it comes to the South China Sea, China ignores the laws that say countries such as Vietnam are entitled to the part of the sea that lie along their coasts. And China claims just about the entire vast, strategic and resource-rich South China Sea. So China has pressured Vietnam into canceling this project. As to whether that pressure came in the form of intimidation or by some other approach, we don't yet know. But we do know that Vietnam has capitulated to China and has canceled this vast drilling project. According to the BBC, the cancellation could cost investors up to $200 million in sunk costs. And this is actually the second time in less than a year that Vietnam has surrendered to China in this part of the South China Sea with an oil drilling project. The first of those came back in July, and both of these instances are an indication of the shifting power balance between Beijing and the United States. If the Vietnamese leadership had faith in America's support and in America's assurances to uphold international law, they would have ignored China's pressure. But Vietnam does not have faith in the US, and so they caved in. Trumpet editor-in-chief Gerald Fleury has said that China's takeover of the strategic South China Sea is steering the world toward war. In our July 2016 issue, he wrote, "Since Japan's defeat in World War II, America has protected this vital trade route and brought peace to this part of the world. Now the American military is retreating, and other great powers are coming to fill the vacuum. China is intimidating the nations of Southeast Asia into submission to its will. Everything is headed in the direction of war." Mr. Fleury's understanding of the South China Sea situation is founded on Bible prophecies. In Deuteronomy 28, verse 52, God warns the nations of Israel that if they reject Him, then He would hand control of the strategic sea gates of the world to their enemies. And Mr. Fleury explained that this warning is not just intended for ancient people. He wrote, "It is a prophecy for the modern-day descendants of Israel. Two nations in particular represent Israel in this end time, America and Britain." The fact that China has pressured Vietnam into halting this oil drilling project in its own waters, and just the general ongoing takeover of the South China Sea, shows that the groundwork is being laid for this prophecy in Deuteronomy to be fulfilled. To better understand this Bible prophecy and the hope that is tied to it, please order a free copy of Mr. Fleury's book, Ezekiel, the End Time Prophet.